Hi friends, in this editorial I've combined both 20th and 21st Jan editorials. Now starting with the first editorial of the 20th Jan, which is the limits to popular sentiment. This editorial is regarding the Jallikattu or the Supreme Court ban on Jallikattu. So the Tamil Nadu government has requested the central government. So based on that, central government has passed an ordinance to nullify the Supreme Court ban on Jallikattu. So now the reason for banning the Jallikattu is that instead of the traditional form where one man against one animal, the nowadays the Jallikattu involves mass participants with involving hundreds of men chasing a bull, and they try to hold on to its hump or stop it, or they pull it or twist the tail of the animal, thus hurting the animal. In this process, not only animal has been hurted, but also it is leading to severe injuries among the men too. In 2013, under the watch of Animal Welfare Board of India, the onus was put on the state of Tamil Nadu to ensure that this Jallikattu did not violate the provisions of the prevention of cruelty to animals. So it asked the state to ensure that this did not the Jallikattu did not violate the prevention of cruelty of the Animals Act provisions. But what has happened was that the state failed to take any measures against it, and as a result, the Supreme Court had to interfere. And then what happened last year after the ban by the Supreme Court, the center tried to get around the court order by issuing an executive notification that granted exemption from restrictions on the use of bulls as performing animals in the traditional sport. So after the Supreme Court ban, the center issued an order which granted exemptions for this Jallikattu. In now again the central government has passed an ordinance to nullify the Supreme Court ban. Now, what is missed is the opportunity by the state government. The state government really had an opportunity to ensure that Jallikattu was free of cruelty to the animals and injuries to the participating youth. They missed that opportunity, and also now the efforts to nullify the Supreme Court ban or Supreme Court judgment, it through ordinance route, again it carries a serious risk of judicial reproach, so it may lead to an contempt of the court. So therefore, what is needed is a proper course for the central and state government to pursue the Supreme Court. So the center and the state government should pursue the Supreme Court, that and it should convince the Supreme Court that that this government will take enough measures to ensure that to ensure or to prevent the cruelty of animals, and also to guarantee the safety to the spectators and the participants in the sport Jallikattu. See, in a country, there might be, popular sentiment can influence the legislation, but, it should not undermine the rule of law. Rule of law should be same for everyone. Now, moving on to the next editorial, which is rebooting the disinvestment. This is regarding the centre's decision to divest 25% of its stake in 5 public sector general insurers. Now, first let's see what is underwriting. Underwriting is one of the most important functions in the financial world. So, where they calculate the risk. So, they calculate the amount of risk involved with an venture or with an investment or on a loan. So before making before investing, or before making, or before taking, providing a loan or moving into the venture capital, there is this the risk of these the risk of such measure is calculated. That is called underwriting, and this underwriting is found in banking, insurance, and stock markets. See, last year the gross premium income of the 4 of the insurance companies like New India Assurance, United India Insurance, Oriental Insurance, and National Insurance companies, the profit increased by over 12%. But later their profits after tax fell, and also the closer scrutiny revealed for decrease in the profits. It's because of the because of the high underwriting losses. So this shows that they did not calculate the risk properly. So later, later the amount of risk was more than the calculated one, thus leading to the losses. Therefore, it led to the decrease in the profits. Now let's see what is strategic disinvestment. Strategic disinvestment means that the management control. So let's imagine this to be a PSU. Here the management control and the share, a significant proportion of the PSU share, they goes to the private sector, who is the strategic partner. So, the management control and the significant proportion of the share goes to the private sector, who becomes a strategic partner here. So, therefore, this is called strategic disinvestment. In strategic disinvestment of a PSU is different from the ordinary disinvestment, because in ordinary disinvestment, the management control of the PSU is retained with the government, whereas here it has been transferred to the private sector. So therefore, according to the finance minister, the strategic disinvestment would lead to greater transparency and accountability in the PSUs, and this also allows the firms to raise more capital from the markets, so they can raise more capital. So along with the transparency accountability, that leads to more infuse of the capital into the PSUs. For example, India's 1,500 crore nuclear liability insurance pool, which was created by the GIC, that is the General Insurance Corporation, with other insurers, needs more muscle to create confidence among the nuclear supplies. So if the GIC had so the GIC, which had raised 1,500 crores for the nuclear liability insurance pool. So if the strategic disinvestment happen in this PSU, there will be more. It will lead to definitely increase in the confidence among the nuclear suppliers. So therefore, they can they can readily invest in India. So this editorial basically speaks about the strategic disinvestment and the better functioning of the PSUs. So now let's move on to the next editorial. The next editorial is Safe Childhoods for a Safe India. Now, before going to the editorial, let's see what is ILO, which is International Labour Organization. It was created in 1919 as a part of the Treaty of Versailles that ended the World War One. This is important for the PT. So it was created as a part of the Treaty of Versailles after the World War One to reflect the belief that universal and lasting peace can be accomplished only if it is based on social justice. So basically, it is based on social justice, and the International Labour Organization is devoted to promoting the social justice, as we saw, and also it internationally recognizes the human and labour rights. Now, India has decided to ratify the ILO Convention 182, which speaks about ending the worst form of child labor, and also ILO Convention 138, which speaks about the minimum age of employment. Now, let's see what was the reason for India, to have taken so long to ratify these two conventions. So the main bottleneck in India ratifying these conventions was, addressing the forced or compulsory recruitment of children and appropriately raising the age of employment in hazardous occupations from 14 to 18 years. So first we had to address the forced, recruitment of the children in various jobs, and also we had to raise the age of the children from 14 to 18 years for the employment in the hazardous occupations. So because of this, there was delay in ratifying the convention. Now, after the passing of the Child Labour Prohibition and Regulation Amendment Bill in 2016, which prohibits the employment of children up to 14 years of age, and also and children up to 18 years of age in hazardous occupations. Now, after passing this bill, now India can ratify these two conventions. So but still a failure to taking like the time taken by India to ratify these conventions, even after being the founding member of the ILO, was reflected poorly on the image of a nation. But still, now at least that India has taken step to ratify these two conventions, which is an very significant step in regard to enforcing the child rights. Now let's look at the impact of the child labor on the children. So first is that child labor, it perpetuates illiteracy and poverty. So once the child is sent to work, he'll definitely not go attend school. Therefore, it leads to illiteracy, and And due to unsustainable working conditions and illiteracy, there it leads to, definitely again leads to poverty. And and child labor are also it is also a root cause of organized crime such as, human trafficking, terror, and drug mafia. So children become a soft they become soft target for human trafficking. And the need for money or need to come out of the poverty, again it leads to, involving in various other activities like terrorism, drug mafia, etc. So now, after ratifying the convention, the government should, it will take immediate and effective measures to prohibit and eliminate the worst form of child labor, which is the child slavery, that is the sale and trafficking of children, and debt bondage, that is the children are forced to work or they are forced to remain on debt itself, and forced recruitment for armed conflict. In armed conflict areas, children become the soft target again, to recruit them in such conflict areas. So we have to prevent those. And also children again are the target for the child prostitution and their use in pornography, and use of children for illicit activities such as drug trafficking, exposure to any hazardous work which is likely to affect or harm the health, safety, or morals of the children, should be prohibited. Now, under the provisions of ILO Conventions 182 and 138, India will not adhere to a fixed deadline. So, it will not adhere to a fixed deadline, which by which the worst, for eliminating the worst form of labor, child labor. But it will ultimately, the eliminating the worst form of the child labor will ultimately depend upon the moral courage, public concern, social empathy, political will, and implementation of the resources invested in development and protection of resource of children. So we need an contribution from all the stakeholders, not just from the government. So we need the moral courage from the government and the public support, and also the empathy among the youth, children, etc., and among citizens, and also the political will to take the stringent actions against those those who encourage the child labor. And also we have to ensure that effective use of resources or effective implementation of the policies. Now that's it for this editorial. Now moving on to the next editorial, which is reopening old wounds. This is regarding the Japan and South Korea issue. First, Northeast Asia, which is a geostrategic hotspot, because first is because of the China's claims in the disputed territory, and also the North Korea and its nuclear arsenals, etc. And now the recent issue is regarding the conflict between South Korea and Japan. The conflict is related to the statue of the barefoot teenage girl in Busan. This statue was erected just opposite to the Japanese consulate in South Korean city of Busan. And now, as a result, the Japan, which is not happy with this, has recalled its ambassador from Seoul, and has also suspended high-level economic policy discussions with the South Korea. Now let's see what the cause of this friction. This is regarding the cause of the friction is basically from a statue of the teenage girl. This is a symbol. This statue is actually a symbol of the tens or possibly hundreds of thousands of women who are forced to service the Japanese military. So this women were forced to service the Japanese military during the World War II brothels. So these women were forced to work in the brothels during in Japanese brothels during World War II as the comfort women. So they were called as the comfort women. So basically they were the sex slaves who were recruited from Korea, China, and Southeast Asia. Although now there are only 40 surviving comfort women in South Korea, they are the remainder of the Japanese wartime atrocities. See, before erecting this Busan statue, the Japan and South Korea had signed an agreement in 2015 itself. So, in the Japan and South Korea had concluded an agreement which was supposed to be final and irreversible solution to the comfort women issue. So, regarding this comfort women issue, they had signed an agreement. So, see, according to that, Japan had apologized and they agreed to pay around $8 million into a fund to help to take care of the comfort women. And on its part, South Korea agreed to consider the matter as to be resolved. The accord, this accord was hailed as an historic, opening the possibility of new era in Japanese Korean relations. So, according to that, Japan they tendered its apology, and it also agreed to pay $8 million to take care of the comfort women who are still surviving. And South Korea said that South Korea considered the matter or the issue of the comfort women to be resolved. But again, now erecting a statue, again this has led to tensions between the Japan and South Korea, which Japan sees that as an definitely as a violation of this 2015 agreement. Now let's coming to the chart. So what is happening is that, see, let's in China or in South Korea, if there is like any public tensions or the public protest or any tensions of regarding the domestic matters, what China and South Korea are doing is that they are bringing out this matter or acquisitions on the China. So they bring out the acquisitions on Japan for its atrocities committed during the World War. So they're always bringing this matter again and again just to divert the attention of the public from the domestic matters to those of the to those of the other country, like which has happened long time ago. And Japan has tried to address this issue, like with South Korea it had signed an agreement and addressed the issue, and it tried to close the matter for once. But again bringing out the issue, this just only not only creates tensions between two countries, but this does not lead us to anywhere. First, what is needed is to address the domestic issues and bring out the solution to an atrocities which has been committed long time ago. The next editorial is regarding the Nepal issue. This editorial is about the interview with the Prakash Sharma Mahat, who is the foreign minister of Nepal, who had visited India recently. Now, let's see who are Madeshis. So, Madeshis are the Tarai people living in the southern plain area adjacent to India, and these Madeshis people, they have the demography like similar to Bihar and UP. So now, what is coming to the issue between the Nepal government and the Madeshis is that the Nepal constitution they had. Propose the equal representation based on the geographical area. So based on the geographical area, there will be equal representation in the constitution. But Madesh's people are demanding the representation based on the population size. So we like the given that the Madesh's people they occupy less geographical area, but compare if you take the population size, they are very much more in number compared to the other more in number in Nepal. So Madesh's people they want the representation based on the population size and not on the geographical area. And another issue is that most of the key constitutional posts have been reserved only for the citizens by descent. So this is a huge problem for Madeshis because they have the acquired citizenship by birth or by naturalization. So they did not have the citizenship by descent. Therefore, they cannot hold the office of like a constitutional post like the office of president, vice president, prime minister, chief justice, etc. So again this is also leading to an tension between the Nepal government and the Madeshis people. Other issues regarding the demarcation of the provinces. So these are the issues which the government has to solve before going to an election. Now let's look into impact of demonetization on the Nepal. So Nepal, they need Indian currency for the daily transactions for the export and import, and also for exchange with the major economies of the world. So demonetization has impacted these functions of the government, leading to a cash crunch and food shortages. Given that there was already a blockade which is happening in Nepal, this again it exacerbated the situation there. Now, the currency of Nepal is called Nepalese rupee, which is something like this. Now, moving on to next editorial, which is 21st Jan editorial. First editorial is living in the hotter world. This speaks about the increase in the temperature and the climate change. So 2016 has been the warmest year since the 19th century, and it has also been the hottest of three record-breaking years. Compared to three years, this was the hottest year with the highest temperature. So therefore, with the rise in the global average surface temperature, what has happened in 2016 is that obviously there was rise in temperature, but also the El Nino phenomena, it aggravated the situation more, thus leading to thus making it the warmest year since the 19th century. According to the NASA, the reason for increase in temperature was one reason, mainly it's due to increase in the emission of carbon dioxide, other human-made emissions. So the reason being the carbon dioxide emissions and other human-made emissions. What is the impact of this increasing temperature is that there has been declining the ice cover in Arctic, Greenland, and Antarctica. And there's not only declining of the ice cover, but there's also darkening of the ice cover, therefore leading to increase in the melting of the ice. So let's see what was the reason for darkening of the ice cover. See, during summer, what happens is that during the summer, due to increase in the sun rays, the ice start melting. The upper layer of the ice start melting. Then what happens is that the the dust from the erosion or the soot, they just occupy the topper layer of this ice after the melting. So after the melting, whatever is remaining, so the dust occupies that layer. So this leads to the darkening of the ice surface. Now, the albedo or whiteness, which is a scientific term meaning reflectivity, albedo is nothing but it is a fraction of solar energy that the earth reflects. So, it is a fraction of solar energy that the earth reflects back into this space. The lighter colored areas of the earth, they reflect most of the solar energy. So, the lighter areas, they reflect the most of the solar energy, whereas the darker areas, they absorb the solar energy. Darker color area of the ice, which due to the dirt or soot, they absorb more heat, they absorb more sun's heat, and thus resulting into the thus they result in the increase in the melting of the ice. So definitely right, when they absorb more heat, it increases the process of melting of ice, therefore again leading to increase in the sea levels. So coming to the impact of the climate change, due to the climate change, there will be altered rainfall, drought, floods, lost biodiversity, and also reduced crop yields, etc. And and the impact of the increase in the sea rise in the sea level, it impacts the climate coastal areas, and also impacts the access to water and farming and human health, etc. So these are the impact of the increase in the sea level. So again, to revise, the impact of the increase in sea level or the climate change in the coastal areas, the difficulty in access to the water, and the difficulties faced by the farming sector, and also the impact on the human health. So, given the present scenario, the measures that should be taken by India are, it should scale up the renewable energy, and also the states should be ranked upon their policies that help unlock the investment in the renewable sector. Like the state should encourage the renewable energy like the rooftop installations, and also service infrastructure for solar should be upgraded without delay. So based on the effective measure steps taken by the states, there should be a ranking so that it encourages more states to go towards the renewable energy. Now moving on to the next editorial, which is a deserved commutation. This is regarding the commutation of the Chelisa Manning, who is the American whistleblower, who was slapped with a 35-year sentence for leaking the classified State Department documents to the anti-secrecy group WikiLeaks. So she had leaked documents to an WikiLeaks, and now a sentence has been commuted by the outgoing president Barack Obama. So the president has commuted the sentence, but he has not pardoned her. So therefore, this has not removed a federal crime from her record. So still she has been, she has been under the federal crime, which is not yet removed. She's only been, she's only been commuted the sentence, not pardoned by the president. Now coming to the WikiLeaks connection, the WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, he had said that if the US commutes the punishment of the Chelisa Manning, he would allow himself to be extradited to the US to face the various charges against him. Now since the Mr. President, like President Mr. Obama has commuted the charges against Chelisa Manning. Now we have to see if the WikiLeaks founder will go back to the US. But now again, what is the problem here is that WikiLeaks has found itself again to be a center of the issue regarding the hacking of the Democratic National's emails. So again, this adds to and further complications. Now there's another question, like whether the President Obama is whether the Obama sent a troubling message, saying that the fear or enabling or it might lead to the future leakers leaking the information to the America's enemies also, and again like moving or escaping the punishment. So we are this might be a case, but still what he has done, the appreciable thing is that there's a US reputation as a superpower. It always preached about democratic values such as right to dissent and freedom of speech. But in the US itself, it has come down very heavily on the whistleblowers. So now this has been an this has President Obama has set an example to show that the US always like they commit to the values, democratic values like right to dissent, freedom of speech. But they have to be careful, because this might to an lead to a trend where the future leakers, they might leak the information to the US enemies also. So there need to be an delicate balance between both. So that's it for this editorials. If you found this editorial useful, please like and subscribe to my channel, and also give me your feedback. Thanks for watching.